Hi, it's Les here. Welcome. We're going to have a go at something quite creative here using a couple of images that we've supplied in the magazine. I'm just going to open one of those first of all. And we're looking at the one called Bald Eagle. So we click on that and we open. Just change my tools on here. There we go. Okay, so there's our image. And what we're going to do with this, first of all, I'm going to double click the hand tool on the left hand side. That just makes it fit to the screen, so it's nice to work on. And then what we're going to do is duplicate this layer. So on the layers palette, which you bring up by clicking on layers on the right hand side, you can see we've got the one layer. And if we right click on that layer, we'll go to duplicate layer and we click on OK. So now we've got two identical layers. Okay, so next step, I'm just going to hide these layers for a moment. So I'm just going to click the little arrow there to put that back on the side. And we're going to make a selection of the actual eagle. Now, we're actually going to do the reverse. But before we do that, we're going to get rid of all these items on here that we don't actually need. They're just in the way, basically. So we're going to use a standard lasso tool, and we click on that, and we're going to draw around the eagle very roughly, leaving plenty of blue there. I'm going to make sure I don't include any of the tree. Come round and select the eagle. Okay, and then what we're going to do is to invert the selection. So we go to select on the menu, inverse. So we've now got everything but the eagle selected. And all we do on the keyboard is to press the backspace key, and that will delete. It doesn't look like it's actually done anything, but pressing the button will delete. And you will see that if we look on the level on the layers now, you can see that that part has been deleted. Now the reason we can't see that is because the background layer is also being displayed. So I'm just going to click on the eye on the background layer, and we can hide that. We don't need that now, but we'll just keep it there in case we need to revert back to that. And we can get rid of this selection now, the marching ants, by going to select, deselect, and we're left with just the eagle. Okay, and I'm going to hide the layers for a moment. There we go. So that's what we're going to work on to make the selection. Now just removing all that area is just going to make that easier. So what we now do is to click on the quick selection tool, which is located on the toolbar there. Quick selection tool, and you see there's on the option, this is called the options bar along here, and you can see there are three different modes. You've got new selection, you've got add to selection, and subtract from selection. Now we use all of these when we're making a selection. So the first thing we're actually going to do is to click on the first one. So that's a new selection, and we're going to drag along the sky area around the bird. And don't worry if it sort of eats into the bird, we're not too worried about that at the moment. So we're just going to make sure that we've got all these edges included as well. So I'm actually coming outside the blue area. And that's just so that it doesn't select any of the little edges on there. Okay, so there we go. Now it's got everything selected. We're missing a few feathers on there, but we'll put that right in a moment. So the next thing we do is to invert this selection, because actually what we've got selected is the sky and we want the eagle. So to do that, we go to select and inverse. Okay, a new feature on Photoshop and the later versions of Photoshop is we have got this select a mask button. On any of the tools, the selection tools that you use, you will see select and mask, and you can actually click on that and start with that straight away, but I like to make a basic selection first of all. So we click on that now, and first of all we need to look at the right hand side, the view mode, which is at the top right. You've got different view modes. You can see I've got onion skin, I've got marching ants, I've got overlay, on black, on white, black and white, and on layers. Now, the one that I'm actually going to use for this, because we actually haven't got the background showing, so I'm going to leave it on layers, and that then allows me to see the transparent background that we've got there, because remember we hid the background. So just click on there. So that's the one that we're going to use for this. Then we look at the left hand side and we can see we've got a number of buttons on the left hand side there in the tool pattern. We've got quick selection tool, which is basically what we've just used. We've got the refine edge tool, the brush tool, the lasso tool, the hand tool, and lastly the zoom tool. So these are the tools we can use within the select and mask. We're actually going to use the edge tool to start with. Now if the brush was too small or too large, if you've seen the other lessons, you can you know how to use the keyboard's shortcuts that will allow you to change the size of the brush. And if you look at the enter key on your keyboard or the return key, to the left of that you should have two curly brackets, and if you press the right one it will make it larger and the one on the left will make it smaller. I probably want something around that size. Now where I'm particularly interested in is around the areas of the wingtips that are missing. So I'm going to click, I'm just putting the mouse over the edge of the bird's wing there, but I'm keeping the little plus there outside of the area, and I'm just going to hold down and I'm going to drag over this area where the wingtips are. You see it's adding a little bit to that now. I'm also going to come along this edge. I'm just getting the tip just right on the edge. You see the circle? I'm just overlapping very slightly. And this will just make it a little bit more accurate than if you go too far into the bird. Because if there's any areas in there, it may pick those up. So we don't want to go over the bird, but we're going over the tail area there. And just along the edges of the wings. The top of the bird actually I'm not too bothered about because that's looking quite okay. And now we're coming to these wingtips again, so I need to make sure that I get into this to remove the blue. So I'm just painting over that area. You can see that we've got that back. Okay. I think that's looking quite good. There's a little bit in this area. I'm just going to get that area there. And I think that's looking okay. Right. Next stage, if you look very, very carefully, there's a few little areas around here, especially where I can see a little bit of items that it's actually picked up part of the sky there. So now we use the next brush down, and when we click on this one, we've got a minus and a plus there. I'm going to click on the minus because I want to subtract that little area there. So I'm just going to brush over that. I'm not putting the brush. See, if I do that, I can just click to get that back, so I can hold down the control key and press Z. That will undo. So you don't want to go over the bird, you just want to go outside the area where you may see just a little bit around there. So I'm not going over the bird, I'm just keeping outside the feathers and just making sure that those little areas tuck out. It's looking okay. There we go. We've got a fairly good selection there now. You can see we've got all the wingtips back, and that looks fine. So all I do now is to click on OK. I'm just going to go back to that actually because I missed a little bit there. So when we go to that, you have got an output to, and selection was selected on that, but you can choose and all the other options on there. We did want selection. I'm just going to cancel that now, but make sure that that's on selection when you click on OK, and then you'll be left with this. And then we go to our layers, and what we do on this now is to go down to the bottom of the palette where you will see add layer mask. That's the little white square with a circle on, and we click that, and there we've took away the background. I'm just going to use the zoom tool and zoom in on this. You can see there's little bits around there. I'm going to hold down the space bar, and what that does, when I hold down the space bar on the keyboard, can you see the hand appears? And holding down that allows me to drag along and see these areas. Okay, so I'm now going to show you a little trick just to get back a few of these little areas. There's a little bit of blue there. I'm going to show you how to get rid of that. So these little bits that are just outside there, you can see on the wing, we're going to use the burn tool. Now the burn tool is located here. You can see the burn tool, you've got the dodge tool, the burn tool, and the sponge tool. And what the burn tool does is it actually makes things darker. So it darkens things. So if you think, if we look at our mask, and basically the mask that makes the selection is black and white. If you was to paint in white, it would paint areas back in. If you paint in black, it takes out areas. So if you've got these little smudges on the edge there, and we use the burn tool, and we'll use an exposure, make sure it's on shadows, so the range is on shadows. The exposure will take up to about 64%. And what I'm going to do is to just draw over these areas and along the edge there, and that will harden that edge up and take out any soft areas, because what it's doing, it's darkening the soft area, and that is making it transparent. Okay, so I'm going to hold down, I'm just going to go around these areas along the edge, and you see it just sharpens the edge up. Okay, we have got an area there. Well, I'm actually going to use a different tool for that, but you can see we've got this line that you quite often get that, and that's why it's a good idea to use this method and go around and see that. Now what I'll do while we're at this stage, rather than forget about that and miss it later, is I'll just change to the brush tool, and using a black brush, I'll make sure the colour's on black, on the foreground colour. I get my brush, so I'm going to use a hard brush, a hard round brush. It's actually very, very large, that brush, so I'm just making it smaller using the keys again. And I'm just going to paint out these areas using the black brush. I'll just go around and make sure we've got, I'm going to do all this first, delete this area. And you see it's just on the edges of where we had that blue sky, it's left a little bit of a line around that area, which it quite often does, so that's something to always check when you've used this method. But on the edge there, we delete that area. And I think now we've just a little bit there. You can see there's an area there. It's back down here. So it's always neatening up after, and the brush tool is a great tool for that. Can you see these areas? I don't know if you can see that on the video, but there's just a few areas around here that are quite, it's just showing a little bit of grain on that where it doesn't pick the things up. Now we can get rid of that by, again, using the burn tool. We'll make the burn tool a bit bigger and we'll just go around these areas, and that will take that out. So I'm just not going too far into the bird itself, but we're just going along the edge, and especially around this area. There we go, and that's just neatening that up. It's quite a bit there, so I'm just going to click a few times around this area along the edges. That's taken out all that noise, little particles that it hasn't picked up, and people don't often check this, and it's something you really need to do. Zoom in. Now I've just made that a bit softer there, so what we're going to do there is the reverse, is where we're using the burn tool. I'm going to use the dodge tool, just make it smaller, and I'm actually going to go on these feathers and make them harder. So the opposite now, we're strengthening the white areas by using the dodge tool, and that will bring in anything that's there, it will make it sharper, but within the selection range. So I don't want to come outside, but we just go over that area, and again here we can just sharpen the edge up. It's a little bit soft. It will harden the inside area, and the burn tool will get rid of any areas outside. That's looking good now. Let's go along this edge. You see that's bringing that little bit of detail back. So the dodge tool you use just on the edge on the inside of the line, and the burn tool on the outside, and that will get rid of all those little bits. Okay, I'm really happy with that now. That's looking good. So I'm going to double click the hand tool and get me back to this view. And we're now at the stage to open our background image. Okay, now I'm happy with the selection. What I'm actually going to do is to get rid of this mask, so I'm going to right click on there. Always make sure you're happy with that before you do this. So I'm going to click on apply layer mask, and that then takes away the mask, and we're just left. If I click on the move tool, you can see we're just left with a bird now, which we can move around just like that. So now we open the other file, open, we open our sky, and what I'm going to do with this is, you can see we've got two images open now. We've got the sky and we've got our bald eagle, which is the one we can't see, and I click the move tool and I hold down the mouse, so don't let go of the mouse button anywhere on the background there, and I drag until my mouse is over the bald eagle image there, and then when I let go, I'll get my background. Now the background, I've made the same size as the picture, so we can move that into position, and it should more or less fit perfectly. If not, we can just resize it slightly and make sure we haven't got any white showing on the image yet. So I'm just going to drag over. It's going to make it a little bit bigger in all directions. That comes outside, so we haven't got any white areas showing. That's looking okay, and we click on the tick to commit the change, and we go back to our layers. You can see that's at the top now, so we just simply drag that down. You see I'm holding it down, and when I get that white line appear below the background copy and let go, we have now got our eagle on the top. Okay, now sky's a little bit dark and I want it lighter than that, so an easy way to actually put that right is if we go to the background layer, which we can't see, and click on that and then produce a new layer. So I'll click on new layer, create new layer. Now remember, this layer is empty at the moment and it's below the other layer, so we can't actually see it. But what I'm going to do is to select white for the foreground colour, so I'll click on the default colours there and I'll just switch that around using this little double arrow. So white is on top. We click on the paint bucket tool and I click once. Now it doesn't look like it's done anything, you click as many times as you want, but underneath this layer we have now got a white background. And I'm going to click on layer 1 with the sky. And I'm going to change the opacity of that, so we click on the opacity. I'm just going to take it down to around, let's not look, about 80%. There we go. There we go, so there's our eagle in the sky. And now what we're going to do is a few effects. So making sure we're still on that layer, we're going to add a new layer. I'm going to click on the foreground colour. I'm going to move to the orange colours around there. I want a nice bright orange, so always working up the top right hand corner to get the purest colour. And I'll just go, I'll drag that down slightly so it's just a bit darker. And then I'm actually going to click. So we've now got orange all over that. What we're going to do now is to change the layer mode. Let's try soft light. We can change the different layer modes to change the colour of the sky. Let's just have a look. We'll try multiply. On the wrong layer. More than less. Make sure you're on layer 3. Okay, and we can also change the opacity just to get a slight tint in the sky. So you see I change the colour by putting the colour that I want to tint it with over the top. There we go. That's just really got that colour on there. So we change to multiply. I'm just going to bring it down a little bit because I just want a slight tint. That's looking nice. Okay. Now the next stage, we click on the top layer and then we create a new layer. Because what we're going to use now is our brush that we created. So I click on the brush tool, I select the brush that I created, which will be the last one, which is the splash effect. Just click off there. We make sure that the colour is set to white, so you can switch that around. Click on the default colours and switch it over to white. And then I'm going to make the brush bigger using two keys where we learn to control the size of the brush, which is to the left of the return or enter key, the two curly brackets. I'm going to click once. I'm going to make the brush smaller. Click once again, and a bit smaller, and a bit smaller, and smaller, and I'm just going to click along here. Over towards the middle of the image, creating something like that. So just single clicks. And what we're actually going to do now is to duplicate this layer. Make sure that you just actually come over the edge there. We click on the move tool, and from the left hand edge I'm going to drag and position this over to the right. I'm going to get roughly the same size, so I'm going to bring it out slightly so it's overlapping the other one. There we go. Click the tick to commit the change of the size. I might even bring it on a little bit more. Bring it a bit more. I'm going to press the enter key, which commits it straight away. And then we click on the layers. And I want to merge this down with the other one, so I'll right click on the layer and merge down. Not merge visible or anything, you'll flatten the image, merge down, make sure you click on that. And now we've actually got that. See, I've got the move tool on. We've got it on one layer. Do that because I'll probably, there we go, let's get that back in the middle now. Okay, now what I'm going to do, I'm going to duplicate that layer. So right click, duplicate layer, click on OK. And from the middle at the top, I'm going to drag up to the top of the image, like that. And press the enter key again, that will commit the image. And I think we might change the layer mode on this one, so what we'll do is we'll change it from normal. Let's try overlay, or perhaps soft light. Yeah, I'm liking that. Soft light works very nicely. So we've got this sort of effect going on now. And then what I want to do is to get a bit more in the middle there. So I'm going to go down and I'm going to duplicate this layer. Right click, duplicate layer. I'm going to drag it down from the top. I'm actually going to bring it in slightly from each side. Something like that. We've got this thing going on now. Okay, so press the enter key just to commit that. So we've got all these layers now. Okay. Now what I want to do is I'm going to click on the sky layer. It's layer 1. I'm going to right click on that and duplicate that layer. I'm going to drag this one to the top. And what that will do, it will colour. When we change the mode, we're just going to change it from normal. Let's try soft light. You can see now it's giving that an whole effect and colouring the whole image to that sort of style. If I take this back, see what it's actually doing. So we drag that to the top there, and it's just colouring the bird so it merges nicely with the background. Okay, so what we will now do is merge. We're okay on that actually. I'm just going to get the bird now, so we need to go to the bird layer, the one with the bird on. So you can see that's selected. It's a background copy in this case. I'm going to resize this. I'm going to hold down the shift key when I resize, and that will keep the perspective of the bird. I'm going to make him a bit larger. I may also try rotating it, so I'm taking the mouse outside the selection box there. You can see I'll get this double arrow and I can click. Let's just see if we slight rotation like that. Like that. Obviously your image isn't going to be exactly the same, you never get two exactly the same, but you can see the type of effect that I'm getting now. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is to merge from layer 4 all these ones with the actual water on, so all these layers there. So from the bird, in between the bird and the top sky layer, I'm going to click on that layer there, hold down the shift key, click again, and we've got those layers selected, and I right click, I'm going to merge those layers. Now what that does is it actually takes off the modes that we put on there, unfortunately. So I'm just going to try different ones. Soft, that's looking nice, and I'm going to duplicate that layer now. Right click, duplicate the layer, click on OK. So I'm building it up slightly, and I'm going to right click again, duplicate it again. Okay, we could even experiment and try moving one of these. It's all little things now just to get this effect. Press the enter key. It's looking okay. What we need to do with that now is just soften that edge a little bit. I'm not sure I'm happy with that, but we'll bring it in. Let's try again. Let's try another technique. We'll bring it right up like this. Oh, I like it now. That's nice. Let's bring it back out. I'll just bring that down and go up again. It's just a matter of playing around just to create something creative. Okay, so that looks good. This rather dramatic picture there. Okay, I'm actually going to drag the bird upwards, and then I can sort of put it in between these layers, which gives it the effect that it's sort of coming through some and not others. Let's see where, probably about there, that looks nice. So it's actually flying through, some of the layer goes over that and some don't, so it gives it a nice effect. And I think that's looking good now, so we'll just flatten all the layers. Go to layer, flatten image, click on OK, and there's a very dramatic looking picture. So I'm just going to save that now. So we go to file, we don't click save because it will overwrite your original file. So we go to file, save as, and we'll call it Eagle Splash. Click save. So you can see we've created nice water effect type images using that brush. And there's lots of other uses you can put it to as well. You know, we've sort of used it for this image. You could create glasses and water splashing out and all these things. So these type of brushes, remember we made it ourselves. You know, you can be really creative and get lots of different things going on there. Okay, I hope you enjoyed that tutorial.